Hello, this is Billy Joe Saunders, WBO middleweight champion of the world. Subscribe to Sporting Icons to stay in touch with all the top news. God bless you all.
It's Saturday, the weather is glorious, and I hope you're all enjoying it. Now, yesterday I seen the Sky Sports interview with Joe Gallagher, who is of course a trainer at Gallagher's gym, such as Anthony Crawler, Callum Johnson, Hosea Burton, Callum and Liam Smith, Anthony Crawler, etc., etc. Now, in this interview, he was talking about how Frank Warren put in a offer of 50-50 for an all-British unification for the Super WBA and the WBO Super Middleweight World titles between Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders, 50-50. And Joe Gallagher rejected the offer because he felt that Callum Smith is the number one super middleweight in the world, and for him to fight Billy Joe Saunders, the offer should be more in Callum Smith's favour. Now, of course, I've seen a lot of reaction on it on social media. A lot of fans agree with Joe Gallagher. A lot of fans disagree with Joe Gallagher. Now, this is where I stand. Now, first of all, I'm a huge fan of both fighters. And as much as if these guys did fight next, I'd be super happy, really excited about looking forward to it. And to be honest, I don't know who would win. But the reality is, which is what I said a few days ago, that if these guys did fight, then I wouldn't be too happy in the sense of I know what the fan reaction will be. If Billy Joe Saunders lost, people will say, well, Billy Joe Saunders, he's not a natural super middleweight, blah, 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 because he's a career middleweight. If Billy Joe Saunders won and beat Callum Smith, a lot of people will say, well, Callum Smith, he beat a George Groves who wasn't 100% because of what happened in the previous fight with Chris Eubank Jr., his shoulder popping, blah, 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 blah. So what I wanted was these guys to go fight 2 or 3 other top-rated super middleweights to prove themselves at super middleweight. If we can say that, then these guys fight. So whoever wins, there's no excuses, right? But at the same time, I do understand people's frustration when Joe Gallagher turned down 50-50, because when you look at it realistically, when you look at the body of work between Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith, you have to side with Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders has beaten some of the top fighters out there at middleweight, such as Gary Spike O'Sullivan, such as Chris Eubank Jr., David Lemieux, William Monroe Jr., Andy Lee, the list goes on. And of course, he has a victory over Callum Smith's new mandatory in John Ryder. So Billy Joe Saunders has already beaten John Ryder, when there's a very good chance that Callum Smith could be fighting John Ryder next. Again, it's an interesting fight. I think that John Ryder has improved since then. But again, we could flip it and say, but at super middleweight, Callum Smith has the better resume. Why? Because Callum Smith has been at super middleweight for his whole career. Billy Joe Saunders has been a middleweight. So you can look at it that way, and you could say, but Callum Smith, he has a victory over George Groves, who beat Chris Eubank Jr. Yes, Billy Joe Saunders has also beaten Chris Eubank Jr. George Groves did it more convincingly. We could say that. And the fact that Callum Smith has won the World Boxing Super Series. But when you look at it as to Callum Smith winning the World Boxing Super Series, excellent accomplishment. I was very, very proud of him. Of course I was. But again, a lot of people will say that George Groves, maybe he wasn't 100% going into that fight. Listen, we don't know. Maybe he was. He does have a victory over Eric Skoglund, who was undefeated at the time. And Eric Skoglund, of course, has been put into an induced coma. And hopefully everything's all right now. I haven't seen any kind of updates or anything. But the fight before that, against that, was it Holskin or whatever his name was? He was a former kickboxer. But listen, it is what it is. But going back to the Eric Skoglund fight, that was really the first time Callum Smith ever really had to go to the well, because Eric Skoglund did hurt Callum Smith, and he did cut him and all that, but Callum Smith showed a lot of great heart. Now, to say that Callum Smith should get more than 50-50, in my opinion, I understand to a point, but at the same time, when you just look at the body of work between them, the resumes are so far apart right now. Now, Joe Gallagher saying that Callum Smith is the number one in the super middleweight division, again, I have no issue with that whatsoever, of course not. But the reality is there's 3 other belts out there. How do we know? Again, it's all opinion. So we don't know if Callum Smith is truly the number one. He may well be. We don't know. He may fight Billy Joe Saunders, annihilate him. Fight Caleb Plant, annihilate him. Fight the winner of Durrell and Benavidez, annihilate them. It could happen. We don't know. But again, time will tell. But as of right now, I think 50-50 from Billy Joe Saunders is actually a very, very generous offer. Very generous. I can understand to a point that maybe they don't want to go over to BT Sport because Frank Warren, who knows? The judges may favour Frank Warren fighter in Billy Joe Saunders if it goes to points, which is a very good chance that it would. So maybe that's why they've turned it down. But in my opinion, all that aside, 50-50 is a very, very generous offer. Both of them have one title in reality. Yes, Callum Smith, he does have the Ring magazine. So again, it depends on what kind of emphasis you put on the Ring magazine. Usually the one with Ring magazine is usually the number one, right? So again, we can't argue with it. So there are a lot of to and fro's as to who's the A side in this one. But in my opinion, just based on the body of work, Billy Joe Saunders offering 50-50 to Callum Smith is actually pretty damn generous. So is Callum Smith ducking? I wouldn't say necessarily Callum Smith is ducking, but I do feel that Joe Gallagher doesn't have, or he's not as confident in Callum Smith as maybe a lot of fans would like. I think that's probably fair to say. Because what's he going to do? There's a very good chance he's going to fight John Ryder next. As I said earlier, Billy Joe Saunders has already beaten him. In my opinion, 50-50 was a very, very generous offer. And that's the truth of it. But anyway, that's what's going on. Joe Gallagher has turned down a 50-50 offer from Frank Warren. You drop your thoughts below about it. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next one.